process we use is I'd like each of you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself with your name, your company. Tell us a little bit about your company. Tell us why you're here tonight, what you're hoping to learn, and if you have anything to buy or sell. Following that, as I said, Jamie is going to tell us a little bit about United Way, and then we'll begin with the panel session, and we'll begin with Tony.
My name is David Nagy. I've worked in the IT field for about 18 years, and I'm new to the entrepreneur type thing. I'm trying to get a website design company going. It is called Link One Information Technology, and it is at link1it.com. That's about it.
My name is Tom Eckhart. I'm the co-owner of Janice Lawn Care along with my fiance Mel. Tonight we just want to get a good overview of the whole industry. We do have a website, but we're looking to hook up with someone to perform maintenance because the guy we had made it isn't really around much. And so we're just looking to meet up with someone and get some contact info to get someone to perform the maintenance.
Hi everyone, my name is Melanie. I'm also the co-owner of Janice Lawn Care. We started in December of 2015. We're a young business trying to get more advertising through our website, hoping to learn that tonight. We were previously with Yelp, and that hasn't really worked out too well, so we want to get the website going.
Give the wall, please.
Hi, I'm Walt Wiesenhutter. I'm a professor of marketing and management at Bucks County Community College and a SCORE member. And Melanie and Tom are two clients of mine, and I happened to meet them this morning on an off-site meeting for SCORE, and it came up about the website problem. As soon as I was done with them and the luncheon I had afterward, I called Don, and here we are.
Good evening, my name is Kyle, and I partner with Driven Media with Shana. We do social media and a little bit of search engine marketing as well. And I'm here because Don is really the coolest guy around. So,
Yeah, wow.
I mean, Don's events are really
He wants his dinner plate.
My name is Cody Hofstetter. I do IT and cybersecurity consulting. I own a restaurant in Frenchtown. So all those fun sorts of stuff come up. Have any questions, feel free to ask me anytime. And that's a very basic.
Hello everyone, my name is Shana Steigerwalt, Modern Driven Media. We focus primarily on social media marketing, as Kyle had said. So everything from creating a strategy around your Facebook, your Twitter, to also diving into some of the newer social platforms, content creation, advertising, so we can all lead your business back to your website.
Hi everyone, I'm Donna Botti from Delos in Collegeville, and we make the web work for you. So we do websites that work everywhere, primarily WordPress based, or we do custom application development as well, and marketing strategies for the digital age, because those phone books, they don't cut it anymore. You have to use content marketing, email marketing, social media, and all of the new tools available to you today.
Cost effective.
I'm Tony Moore. I guess you can say I'm wearing two hats tonight. I'm also a SCORE mentor, and it's how I met Don. And I won't get into it too much, but that was really the start of the question I had. I'll talk a little bit about when we get to the panel. But I also own an online retail site, Unique Puzzles and Games, and I'm sure for those of you who've been here before, you kept wondering when it was going to go live, and it has actually gone live about 3 days ago. Yeah. And the digital marketing is either going to start tonight or hopefully tomorrow, but it is live and it's looking good, and I'm excited to get move forward with it.
Good evening, I'm Pat Walsh from the Walsh Group, and my wife and I run a digital marketing agency, and our job is also to help you get your website presence up and then drive business there, measure it, and see if there's a return on investment. Thanks.
My name is Gudrun Frank. My business is Weblink Studio. We do web design, email marketing, and I also own a retail store, so a women's clothing boutique. So I get a lot of experience in running an online store. So we do also e-commerce and help people make their e-commerce business work.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm with Pathfinders Real Estate Solutions. I am not technologically savvy, which is sad because I'm the business end of my business. My business partner is the hammer side of my business, so I need to get more savvy. I just launched a website a couple months ago. I did it on Weebly. I was a little bit disappointed with the way Weebly worked, but it's launched. It's up. I'm going to start doing a blog soon to try to drive traffic to the website, a video blog, but I just wanted to come here to learn more about that process. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks. Good.
Randy Burrell, Axios Technologies. We do anything but web, basically. We help you set up the accounts for GoDaddy or any of those, but we don't know anything about designing websites. Anything to do with secure email or anything like that.
Rhonda Okamoto with Legal Shield and ID Shield. What we do is we protect your personal information. On the deep dark web, we have private fraud investigators that will monitor and make sure that there's not illegal activity going on with your private information. On the legal side of it, we make sure that you know what your legal rights are as a business owner and an individual. And I'm here to learn more about the marketing. We do have all mobile sites. We've got 6 apps that we're actually launching. So I'm here to learn more how we can market that as well. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gali Naaman. I'm Director of Development for Potential Inc. We help people with autism of all ages. And we have a pretty good presence on social media. In fact, I like Facebook advertising. So I get a lot of views and a lot of clicks, but they don't buy. So I figured I could learn something tonight. Anyway, we do have, if anyone has a connection to autism, we are having a fundraiser. You said it's okay to sell, right?
Go for it.
So I'm selling a non-profit product. We do have on October 22nd, Saturday, at the Sheraton Hotel in Langhorne, a fundraising event. It's a masquerade ball for autism. I provide the masks. You have a black tie optional. Don Pollock, for those of you old enough to know him, is the MC. Some live music. And where's Dolestown from here? The Fred Astaire School from Dolestown is going to provide the demonstration of ballroom dancing. There are 2 European champions and give lessons. So if that's your gig, come join us and pass this around. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Becker with Parkside Graphics. Been printing for over 25 years, and I guess doing websites for over 20 now, quite a while. We do a lot of work. Yeah, we do a lot of WordPress sites, and I'm here tonight. I was hoping to sit there and find some ways to encourage some of my clients to sit there and get a little bit more active with their maintenance and with social media. And so I'm hoping to find some good suggestions on how to sit there and encourage them to move forward.
Before I pass the microphone, I just have to tell a quick story about Dennis before I forget. So Dennis, 25 years ago, when he first started, I used to run a business over the town center offices over in Chalfont. And Dennis did exactly what the landlord didn't want people to do. He solicited without being asked to solicit. So he came to our office. I didn't know him at the time. He came to our office. He brought a bottle of champagne or sparkling wine or something like that with a balloon attached and a little card. This is long before the internet. And a little card that introduced himself and his graphic services. And how do you ignore a bottle of champagne? It was probably $2 champagne, but anyway, I didn't know better at the time. And we became an instant customer and stayed a customer with him for years and years and years. So marketing works, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Remember doing that? Bottle of champagne.
Hi, I'm Jamie Haddon. I'm the CEO and president of the United Way of Bucks County. You're going to hear from me in a little bit.
To quote a political thing, I'm with him.
My name is Barry Gross. I have a web-based business that we do woodworking supplies and with a niche product of making pens. And so I just want to try and learn how to do more of that. I'm also an educator, and we do a lot of I do a lot of teaching. And what I wanted to do is try and set up something in my home that I could bring the people into my home, learn, and then put it back out on the web as well.
Hi, my name's Andy Meyer. I have been a freelance illustrator, humorous illustrator for more years than I'm going to admit to at this time. My clients have included Forbes, over the years have included Forbes, Sports Illustrated, and Pfizer, and Armstrong, and Cigna. About 15 years ago, I continued my freelance work, but I also was doing corporate consulting work for 3 divisions of Johnson & Johnson, creating internal newsletters out of whole cloth. And I think I developed a pretty strong capacity, both visually and verbally, in communicating difficult ideas in an accessible way. Most recently, I've become a children's book author and illustrator. I have 3 books published, and my particular interest, because publishing companies expect authors and illustrators to generate their own publicity, my most recent effort, which I put a lot of effort into, didn't seem very coherent, and it didn't have much effect. So that's my most immediate interest in being. But in any case, if you have any interest in any of the other things that I've done, I'd be happy to talk to you.
Hi, my name is John Biancomano, and like many of the other folks here, I'm in the digital marketing space as well. I guess I specialize more in helping people integrate all their online activities and prioritize what works and what doesn't work. I also do training. I have 1 and 2 day workshops in different areas of digital marketing, and soon to be starting my classes, or starting some classes, and moving my workshops into Mercer County Community College and start doing some training with them as well.
My name is Susan Sullivan. I'm a graphic designer, illustrator, web designer, specializing in e-commerce solutions with Beaver Merchant. And I'm here mostly for the, learning more about marketing. I'm attempting to, after many, many, many years of doing websites for other people, I'm attempting to launch my own with my own line of t-shirts. I've been doing t-shirts for more years than I care to admit. And so I'll be launching my own on a Shopify store, which is a new platform for me.
Okay, great. So we have quite a diverse group here. Did anybody not introduce themselves? So our panel begins tonight with Tony, who posed the question to us. What is it that how do we evaluate the return on investment on your digital marketing activities? So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Tony, and I'm going to ask him to articulate the questions as best he can. And then I'm going to ask each of the panel members to, off the top of their head, give us their thoughts on that. And then we'll open up the room for questions, and I'm sure we'll have an interesting discussion. So, Tony?
Thanks. We had the last month's meeting A gentleman came in and spoke to us about developing a website in which he was struggling with various phases, various issues of doing that. And I said I was wearing two hats tonight, and my question came from the hat I wear as a store mentor. And I had a couple months earlier a gentleman who asked for me to be his mentor because I have a marketing background and I live in the same town. I'm not sure that qualified me because this question was, how do I get a lot of free marketing? And he owned or for a very low price. I think he was willing to spend about $1.20. But he owned a beer store, and I gave him a couple of suggestions. One of the questions, actually I didn't have to ask him because I checked it out. He did not have a website. So here was someone with a brick and mortar store and a website, and one of my questions after we had a conversation for a while was, why don't you have a website? And his answer was, well, I really can't afford it. And at the time I was like, I don't know if you can't afford not to have it, but how do I, with someone like that, because I'm sure somewhere along the way I'll run into another person like that who will mentor, how do I give them some better answers than I think you really should have it? Now, I completely feel like in 2016, particularly when you're dealing with, let's say, millennials, that you're not validating or legitimizing your business in a brick and mortar store without a website. And I have two kids in their 20s, and I can't fathom them going to a retail store that they're not familiar with, and they're looking to find a store for a particular interest and can't find a website or know about the store, but there is no website. I mean, so at just the pure level of validation and legitimization, I think you need that website. But at some level, anybody who's going to make a spend is going to want to understand what they're getting for it. If you're a small business and you have 5 employees and you think you might need that 6th employee to do whatever, I think most people would say, before I go out and spend the money on that 6th employee, I'm going to have to understand if it's profitable for me to bring that employee in. So I would look at a website, and I think the same way. It's an expense. It's an incremental expense, so I think the analysis has to be it's an incremental profitability. There was another gentleman here last month, it's not here now, and he said, it doesn't matter, that you understand the profitability or that your metric doesn't have to have a dollar sign in front of it. There are a number of metrics that you can look at on a website, click-throughs and pass-throughs, and over years they've gotten those metrics and not turning sales. I would tell you my perspective and point of view, and again, I'm wearing my score hat here, not wearing the owner of an e-commerce business. You better have an understanding of what the profitability is, because all those metrics are, in my mind, a means to an end. They're probably the only way you're going to get to that answer, but you ultimately need to get to the answer of what is the profitability, what is the ROI in dollar cents. I would say I think there is a metric that every owner of a store should know or have a pretty good handle on, and that is, what is the profitability of a customer to you, or maybe an easier way might be, what is the profitability of a sale to you? Because without knowing that information, I don't think you're ever going to get close to truly understanding what you should be spending on a digital marketing or a site. So I guess that's just that's my score hat. I'll take that hat off and put my hat on as the owner of an e-commerce business, and I'll give you I guess a specific issue I have right now. I've been working on this business now for about 6 months. Had a couple of start and stops, and I said, hey, yay, congratulations to me, the site's open. But I would tell you that right now I would evaluate my site as a B. I mean, I feel pretty comfortable about it. I feel pretty good. I guess some people would think B, it's not good enough, but I'm okay showing it around. But the question in my mind is, one, what would it cost me to get it to an A, where I'm really proud of it? And how do I, for me to do that, and that might be down the road, but I want to get started, and most other issues I went out with a B. I would want, Don, here's my question, how do I evaluate whether I want to spend the money to get my site from what I rate as an A to what I would rate as an A right now, a B right now to an A. So that would be one of my questions, and I guess underneath that would be what are the metrics I would look at. What are some great ratios for the kind of business I'm in? It's a retail store. It's puzzles and games. I mean, there's nothing magic about what I'm selling. I mean, it's interesting. There's nothing magical about it. You get some recipients of it there. It's magical, but I mean, there's nothing unusual about it. So those would be my two questions: is how do I evaluate taking a website from a B to an A, and what are those key metrics that I should be looking at as an owner of an online commerce store?
Okay, Shana, why don't we start with you? So,
Perfect. Before we get started, I kind of just want to make a note off of something that you mentioned earlier. So as a millennial, what I look at as a consumer, not as a marketer, I might visit a website 3, 4, 5 times before I ever purchase from them or before I ever enter their, location. And I think what it really comes down to is measuring how much value you put on a relationship with a person. So I think far too often we look at just an immediate sale and really not the relationship that's formed from the first person who visits your website to the first person who clicks around, and what they're actually learning about you, about your company, about what's unique to your products and services. And I think, again, far too often we're looking at that immediate sale. So if we're making an investment into a website, what is immediately going to be the amount of purchases that come from that website, rather than what visitors are coming to my website, how can I nurture those visitors, and how can I make them into a repeat customer who will continue to bring me money and continue to refer my services, my products, so on and so forth. So I think when it comes to a website, there's quite a few things that you have to look at, but it's going to start with, how you can continue to build a relationship, how you can continue to interest these visitors, whether that's providing them, free knowledge, free content, something that interests them, something that makes them feel better about the service or product that you're offering to them. So going back into that, there's many different things that I think can make a website more intriguing to a buyer. What I personally love is the idea of a blog and offering some free content other than just providing them with something that they can pay. Going beyond that business transaction into providing them something of real value, whether that's entertainment, whether that's educational, whatever it could be. I think that's something that can really set you apart and what's becoming more and more popular online on the website.
I think you're right on, and that one of the things I always tell my customers is you have to tell your story online today. People today use the supercomputers we're all walking around with is like the first thing people do. I disagree with Tony's premise that you are looking at your website as an incremental expense today, because it's your online front door. Today, in 2016, there's really a merging of online and offline worlds. And even when someone refers you in person, the first thing they're going to do is Google you and look up your website. So it's not something that I think you can afford to treat as something you add on. Same thing with all your digital marketing. People say, oh, I don't have time to do that. Well, if you don't integrate it into your everyday processes, you're never going to have enough time to do it. You have to think about how can my website give my customers a better potential experience of doing business with me. So I like to tell the story sometimes of like different apps that you can use. So one app I discovered about 6 months ago is called Parking Panda. I don't know if anyone has ever used this one, but it essentially will let you look up where you're going, all the parking norms around where it is, with the prices that they are, and coupons. So I had a series of things down at the convention center in Philadelphia, and the day before I was able to reserve a garage right across the street at $13 a day and pay for it on my smartphone, and they guarantee your spot will be there the next day. So when you go in and then you show a code on your phone and you've paid, and that's it. So that has taken the whole experience of parking in, a city and made it, okay, this is convenient, this is nice. Why do people call Ubers as opposed to Yellow Cab? Because it's so much better experience. So how can you use your website to give your customers a better experience? I cringe when I see the nonprofits that say, please, print out this form and mail us your donation. No, it should be one click, I pay, I'm done. So I think you can't look at it as incremental, but there are ways to measure the return you're getting, and you hit on it very well with the lifetime cost of a customer. We use this all the time in advertising. Should you advertise? Well, look at what it's going to cost you. First of all, know what your objective is. If I want to get a lead, I want to get a customer, I know that I'm going to make this much on the customer. If I know I'm going to make $100 on a customer and it costs me $10 to get that customer, I should keep advertising all day. If the numbers are flipped around, I better find a different way to try to get that customer.
Or keep the customer for 10 years.
Well, that's why I say it's lifetime value is what you really want to look at, not it's building that relationship. Especially for small businesses, people want to know who they're dealing with, they want to understand who they are, and they want to build that relationship with them.
I would just give one other score concept here. When I say score, I'm more referring to business as opposed to my experience, which was my lack of experience as an e-commerce person. At some level, rate, the timeline of payback has to be taken into account. Again, we're talking ROI, but if you're going to lay out $5,000 or $10,000 to buy a site, I think you, as the owner of that person making or spend that money, you want to have a sense of when you're going to get that money back. And if you think it's going to take 20 years, then I would suggest you probably don't want to do it. I mean, I'm probably exaggerating the timeline, but it could be zero, I suppose, or never. But at some point, I think that's one of the other metrics that a business owner should be evaluating is, okay, I'm just making this outline, a layout, it's an investment. When am I going to see that payback on it? Not just the ROI, but what's the payback? What's the timeline of payback?
Do you want your screen up?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. Mark? Get your screen up.
So, you're going after puzzle and games people?
Actually, my target audience is gift givers.
Gift givers. Age range?
I have two demographics I'm going after. One are women in the kind of 35 to
women in the 35 to 54 age who are purchasing for teens and they're people their own generation, spouses, friends, or whatever. And then my second demographic are grandparents who I'm targeting or sensing are over 65 and women. Of course, my challenge with grandparents is the fact that at some level they're probably not as involved in use of online shopping, although I think it's probably changing a lot. But yeah, I'm targeting a gift giver because I'm carrying relatively limited stock. If I was targeting the end user, in my thought, to be successful, I would have to have a huge amount of stock to be able to handle.
How much is your average gain?
$50.
So with that information, if he has a $50 product that he's going out to a very targeted market, the grandmothers and grandfathers are definitely going to be online, and he's got a shitload of competition from all kinds of different places. Even if he has unique games, he still has a lot of competition. So when it comes down to return on investment, I absolutely agree. My whole career has been based on nobody keeps me as a marketing person if you don't make the money. So we're all in the game.
of return investments for our clients. We're salespeople with more intelligence, I meant to say. So a website, you can spend anything from $1,000 to $10,000, that's true. I think you can do it yourself in some ways, but I would suggest you have somebody help you. But if you think you're going to run your own business and not be involved with your website, I think you're on a wrong path, not 2016. And you can actually do a lot on your own website once you get over the fear of, I don't know how to do it. Just like every app you ever got, you figured it out. So return on investment too, I look at a client and I'll say, well, how much profit do you have? So he says 10,000. So I say, well, 10% of 10,000. Well, let's not spend more than 10,000. Let's not use all your profit. They usually laugh. And then I'll say, well, what about 10% of that? Does that seem reasonable? Because there's a starting plate nobody really knows. And then you kind of incrementally can kind of move up from there. So I have some ideas of, I've been doing measurements, like, I had this friend of mine who was a cafeteria manager. And one time she told me the way that she measures whether the food in the cafeteria was good or not is that she would go around to all of the trash cans after each meal and see what they threw out. Quality control. If they threw a lot of it out, they didn't like it, she wouldn't cook it. So in the end, she was doing customer satisfaction feedback and doing her own measurements. And I just want to kind of put that idea in your head that the idea is that you be able to measure. When I was growing up, when I was a kid, we had direct mail cards. And you used to get the postcards back in the mail, and we would count them up like crazy. Like, we got 60 postcards back, and then we'd give them to the salespeople, and that's how we measured it. And all the salespeople would say, none of your leads panned out, which we would just scoff at because we didn't know what else to do. So there wasn't too much. One of the things I want to say about any measurement you're going to be doing, it's really just a guide, and I'm going to be showing you a lot. I'll show you where to find them, what I think is important, how I trend web measurements, and then some examples. So this is considered Google Analytics for anybody that has a website. It really is the king of all measurements, and it's free and it's Google. And I'm just showing you one page. It's the overview page. You can see how many people came to your website, 405, 386 users. How long did they stay on? 23 seconds. How many bounced off? That means they got on the site on one page and then came back off. How many were new and how many were returning? Looks like it's 80-some% new. Okay, so this is one of maybe 70 pages of analytics that Google will give you. The problem for me is it's like looking at the stock market. Like, you don't know what's important if you don't know what's important. It's only important if it's what you're doing. So if it's Google, I think it's important because I have stock in that. I'll watch that one. If it's not Google, I really don't care. And measurements are very much like that. It has to be something that's relevant to what you think your customer is looking for. However, if you love measurements, Google has presented a tool that will give you anything that you want. Unbelievable stuff. I wouldn't dare go through it. So I just wanted to, this is an air conditioning and heating client that I had. So we were looking at his website and we were doing some SEO. So we were trying to see if we were going up or down. One of the things we noticed with him, which always surprised us, was that his lowest months were January, February, March, and April. Now this surprised us because we thought you could freeze yourself to death in the winter. Wouldn't you get more calls? And he said, no, actually, in July, and I guess they're getting ready for winter, but July used to shoot up all the time because people are more afraid of being heated to death, I guess, or something, than they are not. So summer became his big season. Well, at least we knew from this, that the SEO was kind of working, but not as good as we wanted, and that most of the customers that were coming were new. That's the yellow. So we knew we had to keep them on the website. because they weren't returning. And then you think, well, air conditioning and heating, they're just going to go on the website, find the phone number, and call. They're not going to spend time on the website if they've got an emergency. And what we learned about this client was that was really the way it went. So we did some SEO for them, so we tracked it. And the blue was the search engine optimization that we were doing. And it was okay. It was going up and down. Google was the #1 site getting to them. The last one up there is Angie's List. They were spending thousands on Angie's List. And we could see from Google Analytics that not many people were coming over. So then we decided, if everybody's calling, let's track their phone number. So we got a tracking phone number, and we started tracking the calls that were coming off the website. So these are people that are going to the website and then calling, which I wasn't getting credit for. So we put on a tracking number for that. And now we started tracking the phone numbers. We did do a Google ad campaign. If they bought the coupon, we consider that a conversion, and we did okay. But after a while, you can see at the top there, it says Google Ads suspended. It just wasn't enough. The idea, I think, was for heating and air conditioning, they wanted somebody so local that they're going to go to those 7 that pull up with the maps. Google changed that right about this time. So we decided to cancel this campaign. It just wasn't pulling through. Okay, that's not, these were the phone calls we got. Now this is a larger client, but we're also looking at, so they were getting 16,000 people, and then it dropped to 8. Now, what I'll honestly admit to you that was worrisome to me is, we put in their new website in September, and it dropped 8,000. And I was panicked. I was like, holy shit, they're not going to like this, whatever. So I went to the meeting, trying to be full of confidence, and we start going over the numbers, and what he said was, oh, yeah, I can see that it's dropped, but the people that are calling are not cherry pickers. They're not kicking my tires. They're much more qualified. So it's an idea of measurements. I didn't know that. I wish he would have told me that. But the measurement was only a guide. I have to go to the client to find out a lot of the information to explain the numbers, because there's thousands of factors that influence visitor traffic, social media, anything else that you're doing. Anything that you're doing could affect your traffic. So it has to be interpreted, I guess is what I'm saying there. This is something you can get pretty easily in analytics. Are you getting it from display traffic, or organic traffic is through SEOs, whether you're doing Google Ads, whether you're doing social media, it'll track everything for you and where you're spending your dollar. So that starts to become that return on investment. So what I usually end up doing with clients is, once I make my initial evaluation, I would first say, spend your dollar on getting a website. I don't think you can not have a website. And I personally won't take an account on if they don't have a website, or allow us to at least work with them, because it's just not feasible in my mind to deliver any value to any of my clients if they don't have a website. Also, I have a little bit of an integrity issue with, and if we don't drive traffic to your website, I'm not sure we're doing you much good. So both of those issues kind of have to be handled, and yes, in a return on investment way. And that's why there's so many tools out there that you can, work with. I mean, who did the one by yourself, Mark? You did it. Kudos. And was it expensive?
No.
You have a low wage?
Yeah, it's a couple $100 per year.
Okay. For your time?
My time?
$2 an hour?
My time.
But you know it now.
Yeah.
See, that's so important. And I would encourage anybody to do your first if you want, because then you'll understand the process. And then if you hire somebody or work with somebody, you're not standing outside the door wondering what they're doing. It would be like me hiring a contractor. I wouldn't know what he was doing. And you don't want to be in that area. Bounce rates. This is interesting because this client, they do actually some fairly large business equipment. And what shocked me was the mobile use was going up and up. And it dawned on me that they kept telling me some of this equipment is used in the field. So they're out on a job. And so then it dawned on me that these guys were shopping on their lunch breaks while they were out on a job. Who knows? So we had to switch the website format over to a mobile-friendly format. If you do WordPress, it pretty much already is. So that whole idea of looking at desktop and then looking at a phone, if you pick the right theme, but I've never picked a theme that wasn't mobile. So it'll be adjustable. You can do that. That's not an issue. But the rising of the iPhone is absolutely here to stay, here to go. And I'm in a business market, and it's still going up. When you hit the e-newsletters traffic, it goes up to 70%. And that's industrial, business to business. We track the website form submissions. I want to know, how are you interacting with me? What are you submitting? You know, what does that tell me? Well, what we found out was that one of those was submit a question. Turns out that they were placing orders through our submit a question. And we went back and said, well, obviously, we should have our place our orders button a little bit more easy to see. Because if you have to go back to contact us to find it, we're not really doing a job. That's part of the great thing about measurements. I'll tell you the other thing too, if you ever see a measurement die, and I'll show you that in a second. These were some blogs that we had looked at, and you know, we had one really good one, low-cost cell phones, and now look at the end, zeros. They happen to professionals too. But at least we know now what are the topics that worked and what are the topics that didn't. You know? What's the top topic? The top one looks like was low-cost cell phone, something else that I can't read. Got cut off. I mean, this was into security equipment, and my whole point is, though, did you measure it?
Can you explain what we're seeing in the chart again? I'm not sure I understand it.
Right. So, let's say you put a blog up. A blog is actually a web page. It can be optimized for the web. One of the reasons we use blogs is because you can ask questions, what we consider pre-sale questions, like, what's the best gift for my grandson?
A unique puzzle or game.
What's the best?
Chinese chess.
So we would write a blog on what's the best game for a grandson to improve his education. All right? Because they're the questions that you're not going to see really in the website. They're hard to get out there. So we put the blogs in with what we call the who, what, where, why before you're interested in who's going to provide it. As Shane was saying, that's why, you know, she's trying to create this relationship and download an e-paper and give you information before you get in there. Because you have questions before you start. And in websites, and I'm seeing this quite more, we're doing it on ours, is we're offering pricing because people want to see it. You know, they don't want to, I don't want to wonder if a lawyer is $60 or $600 an hour. You know, so what happened on this was the one that had 169 had page views where people actually came to the blog. So we would consider that blog very successful. The unique page views are, out of those page views, the red is really ones that not converted. God love it, there was conversions. You can come back twice to the same page in 1 month, and you're counted in the number. But in the red number, they say, well, only once in that time in the month. So it's a little bit more accurate. And then at the end, these other ones, you know, didn't pull it all. But you can measure it. And then you can measure which ones worked. And then you can start writing towards the ones that work. that make sense? I'm kind of going past two things. What's a blog? And blogs are separate pages that sit outside your website, provide information and answer questions that then link back to your website.
I understood that. I guess what I was trying to ask is, are these blogs that you wrote?
Yes.
Okay, so you were basically looking to see what are the topics that are more compelling. I'm
Yes.
off track. Is this what the
Yes.
pressure is? That if you want to get more interaction with a potential customer, then write something that they are interested in.
Yes.
Do we have any content marketers in the room?
Hey, what?
Content marketers.
Content?
Content marketers. That's a good topic for another session.
Anybody that's doing blogs is doing content marketing. Anybody that's doing e-pages is doing content marketing. So yes, that is exactly what it is. It's measuring whether that. So this is an e-newsletter tracking, okay? So it's a lot of information, but I do it mostly to keep track of the fact that we're sending out on a regular basis for the client. And you can get your open rates and your click-throughs, and then I can see what were the articles that people liked, what were the articles they clicked through. In a newsletter, about 60% of your success is in your subject headline and who it's coming from. So I play around with my subjects and see if I can get better subjects. So I play around with these and see if I can get better open rates, and
So we heard from Shana before that she goes to a website 4 or 5 times before she purchases. And I don't know I know something about Google Analytics, but does it keep track of the number of times an individual IP address shows up, or registration? I guess there's no way to know whether, well, I guess you would know if they actually placed an order. So how many times does Shana, can you track how many times Shana comes to a website before she places an order? Shana, the generic Shana.
You can go back to the previous slide.
In Google Analytics, you can. There's behavior tracking. You track by IP.
By IP address. Okay.
The one thing too.
Yeah, but also on this, on that slide, if the red is unique and the blue is unique plus repeats, so you have about 50 people, 30, 40 people that came more than once to that particular topic.
Right, but this is for some period of time, right?
A month, usually.
So Shana, let's say, takes 3 months to visit a site 5 times.
Correct.
So that 1 month wouldn't do the analysis.
Well, if you put 3 months into Google Analytics, I think it actually picks up 3 months. It's quite powerful.
Yeah. But we wanted to track her IP address and all the other unique IP addresses.
The other thing about tracking by IP address is, depending on who your provider is, they may allocate you a block.
Depending on exactly how you're being tracked, so for this in particular, because you have the page views, that's obviously how many people have come to a single page. So, as Shana said, basically, if she's going to look for something, she's going to first hit the page, in which case it will track her by IP and it will be a unique page view. Let's say she goes back because she found the blog interesting and wanted another piece of information from that, it would not count her again, so that's why you have the single red line. Depending on who your internet provider is, they may allocate you a block of IP addresses, so your home address may be 192.168.whatever, and then in another week it may change, so therefore you would actually show up as a different person to that particular website.
That's why I need to register on the site.
Exactly.
Do you do that?
Just to tag that, if you have a phone or a computer, there are different IPs as well. It can get really complicated, but there's a lot of tracking for that.
And I like the comments because, again, this is all like guides. You know what I mean? You can't get too literal about every single one of these. But in the end, I can tell you those last 3 blogs didn't do too well. It's just compared to the ones that were before it. E-newsletters.
Let me ask you a question.
Say goodbye. Take the mic.
You had the 1 month where you significantly had more responses. Were you able to, in any way, translate that additional hits into sales and then into profits for that client?
Yeah.
I mean, is that something the client's doing? I mean, because I'm not sure you'd be doing that, but I would think the client should be saying, hey, I have this activity, and it's a wide variance of response to the stimuli of a blog. What's working? I mean, I would suggest anybody who's a client should be doing that kind of work. Like, hey, something happened, and I got a significantly different reaction from consumers. What does that translate into? I guess I would suggest that all clients be advised that some activity, again, a challenge for people who probably feel overwhelmed by handling the analytics of what they're doing with their digital marketing. But again, I'm going to go back and say at some point, I'm trying to beat this till it's dead. You've got to understand, and I want to understand as a person who's in e-commerce, is this thing making me money or not making me money?
I'd like to respond to that if I may.
Can you take the mic?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. If you had a store in a shopping center, would you put a sign in front of the store?
That's a rhetorical question.
Well, the answer is yes. Would you analyze the profitability of that sign?
Well, I might analyze the profitability of different signs in that store as opposed to just us signs.
Well, we have come to the age where your website is your sign. And just like you wouldn't consider opening a business, a restaurant like this, without putting a sign in the front, you can't quite analyze it in terms of profit. It's a cost of doing business. Now, how much you invest in it to have a presence, that's where the profitability comes in.
Let me kind of respond to. Oh, sure. You can.
So it is the level of entry is you must have a website, but then you can decide how much am I going to allocate to marketing, and you can get definitely lost in the woods with all of the measurements that are out there. That's actually one of the good things about the digital thing is that the metrics are there, but you have to first have a strategy. You need to have a call to action. What are you trying to achieve? What is it that you're trying to measure? Because if you don't know what you're trying to measure, then none of this stuff means anything. So you have to set goals. Maybe that is to get an email subscriber, because I know I have a long sales process and I need to nurture them over time. So your call to actions would relate to how do I get someone to sign up for my email, or what is in it for them? You need to offer something of value in order to get that. If you're, again, it could be brand awareness. There's all different kinds of things, but whether you're doing social media, your email marketing, your website should all have some call to action that you can then track and measure. They clicked on this, they went to this page, you can see how many people converted. You can measure your conversions, you can measure your leads, you can measure the effectiveness of everything, but you have to have that strategy. And again, how much you want to invest beyond that, it is definitely measurable, but you have to measure it against something.
I completely agree with everything that you're saying. I think many times people just starting to get into the digital realm of marketing, they're hoping for something to happen. They don't really know the possibilities of what can happen. So without a strategic plan, knowing exactly what you want, we'll never be able to fulfill that, because there's so many opportunities, and that's when it's up, as people who are marketing for other businesses, we need to know what you need from us. We can't, provide that to you unless we completely understand what it is that you're looking for with our services.
So I'm going to quote my friend Pat, who gave a presentation to us a while back talking about the shiny object. The shiny object is this belief that social media is going to magically bring dollar bills into your bank account. That is total bullshit. That's a technical term. It doesn't work that way. Mr. and Pat will certainly agree. And I also respectfully disagree with some of the things you said before. To my millennial friend here, a lot of the younger folks believe that they can just go to a website and buy something because it's on the website, there's a price and there's an order button and so on. That may be true for what I would call commodity products, like puzzles and games, for example, but not all products are that simple or commodity products. They require a human to answer the phone. I don't know who that business was where your phone calls. And that then gets us into the art of sales, which we haven't talked about yet. So getting people to call you is one thing, and then you said that those salespeople said that the leads were bullshit or they didn't work. That's probably because they don't know how to sell. And learning how to sell is a very difficult skill. It takes years and years and years and years and years, and then more years. So learning how to sell is an equally important part of all the social media stuff, if your product is not a commodity product. And then one last point, and I'll get the mic back to Shana. Most businesses, for those of you here in the room are old enough, most businesses that I'm aware of anyway, normally spend about 25% of their gross sales on marketing. That's the total all-in cost, somewhere between 20 and 30%, nominally 25%. And if you're going to do $1 million worth of business, that's at least $250,000 a year in marketing, and it really works that way. Does anybody here run a business that agrees or disagrees? Right? That's just how it is. There's no simple, whether it's Facebook or some other book, it's still going to cost you money. It's not free. Nothing in this world is free, in spite of what Mr. Zuckerberg or Zuckerman tells us about. So anyway, I'm finished my speech. I'll turn it over to my millennial friend.
And Tony, going off what you were asking, with blogs specifically, as a content creator, I've been lucky enough to work with Pat and Peggy at the Walsh Group, and one of the customers that we work with, we've talked about this time and time again, where the ideal customer could just be a customer for 5 days. So, how are we going to entreat them to, one, consider our product? So there's an awareness stage, there's a consideration stage of the actual product or service, and then there's a decision-making stage. So, to fully look at if they're buying right from a blog post, if they are buying, it should be because it's a decision type of blog post where you're giving information that will help them get to that decision. Other times, it could just be something relevant in that industry just to make you look like a credible source. I think that's a lot of what some people who haven't gone into the digital marketing, realm yet struggle with, because they don't look credible online. Everybody's looking online now, whether that's a website that's not up to date, that isn't, functioning right, whether that's a social media platform that has barely any followers. You're going to look for some type of proof online that these people are credible. So by having some of these blog posts, it might not be the immediate goal to get them to buy right away. It could just, to build your credibility, your expertise around a certain subject, so on and so forth.
I just want to add to that and say that, what you're saying about the decision phases, the whole process of selling has changed today. It's not like it used to be. Even in B2B, some people estimate that people are 80% through the sales process before they ever pick up the phone to call you. So you indicated that with having transparency in pricing today, that's an important thing. Also transparency in, just who you are and having information available to people at every stage of the game. So things like Amazon's Echo and Alexa, or talking to Siri or Google Now, is changing what people are typing into the search engines. I don't type in cars anymore. I type in, which Honda gets the best gas miles per gallon, and they're very long tail terms in doing that, and having content that addresses the questions that people are asking and finding you as that credible expert is a great thing. People often say, I don't know what to write about, and I say, listen to the stories you are telling every day. If you find yourself telling the same thing in person to someone 3 or more times, that is a blog post. You have that content, you have that expertise to share, you just need to share it online. And then I just also wanted to touch on something that Pat had said about you should learn to build your own website. And I fix a lot of problems where people have built their own websites. You would not start out a business and say, I'm going to learn all about accounting and figure out what my chart of accounts should look like and then go through it. You're going to hire an accountant who's going to set it up and teach you how to maintain it. And I think you should do the same thing with your website. It's very complicated to get it right. It needs to be fast. It needs to be mobile. It needs to be SEO optimized. It needs to be secure. Today, we are living in an age where taking your business security very seriously is something that also has to happen.
We did. We had a whole meetup on that very topic.
All very good points. I absolutely agree with strategy, though. That's what are you going to do? What are you trying to do? And then we can start applying marketing tools to do that. This was just Google AdWords, and that's basically it. The only thing I was trying to do with this presentation was to give you maybe an overwhelming view of all the things that can be measured, but like the stock market. But in the end, there's so much information that can be measured. You need to know that it's out there, and then you need, if you're going to sit down with a professional, start to talk about these things and say, how are we going to measure the success of what you're going to do for me? And then I think you're on a good path. If that professional's not going to discuss return on investment with you, I don't think they're the right one for you.
And with that being said, I know one of the things that has come up with social media, so there's a lot of opportunities with social media that I present my clients with. You know, the most basic could just be having consistency on your social media platforms. You know, it's a full-time job, that's why I made it mine, is what I always tell my customers. You know, to be able to actively update a Facebook account or a Twitter account. You know, with that being said, you also have to be willing to put in the money that it takes to see a change. You can't just assume that, oh, because Facebook or Twitter is free, that I don't have to pay a lot to see results. You will get what you put into it, and that's something to be very wary of, and you know that's why strategy is so important. Unless you're articulating your goals to whoever is assisting with your marketing, or whether it's just a person on your team that does marketing, there has to be a concrete strategy there in order for people to tell you, this is the plan of action we need to take, this is how much we're expecting it will cost you, and this is what the results you will get from that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, definitely, because there's so much out there. There's so many things that you have to do, but you know, people who've been in business a little bit longer and maybe don't get it. You know, I use the analogy of you would never go and have like one radio spot. They would never tell you to do that because it's the repetition of going on and on. And there is this misconception that social media is free. I would argue that Facebook is really now pay to play for businesses. Instagram is heading that way. These are public companies. As users, we don't pay. We are the product. It's our information that's being sold, and for businesses, increasingly, I think it's going to be something that you have to pay. But I often run into people who used to pay several $1,000s a month for yellow pages and can't figure out why, you know, they should pay the same thing for digital marketing. It was the cost of doing business then. It is a cost, and I think you need to look at what your return is going to be. But there are ways to measure it, definitely.
Is there a way to start off by doing some tests of the different channels, what I call marketing channels, before you make a big commitment, you know? And so can you spend a little bit of money doing this, a little bit of money doing that, and so on, and see what kind of results you get, and then that way you get a sense of what's working, what's not working. How does that work?
Well, I think it's always good to test. It's a process. You can't say this is something, oh, I've done it and now I'm done. I always recommend that you need to have a website first, because the social media channels are changing so often. It's, if you build your whole presence there, you're building on rented land. Many people, a year and a half ago, when Facebook decided, hey, businesses, we're not going to show your posts anymore, and they had their whole strategy on there, had a very rude awakening. If your website, you own it, you control the content, use all the social media channels to drive back to your website. I also highly recommend that the next thing you do is build a good email list, because it's still the most preferred method of people of getting information from businesses.
And how do we do that?
You do that wherever you contact people. Would you like to be on my list? You know, that it's definitely something that you have to do on your website, and your events that you're at has to be part of your processes in the store. I want to add that. So one way to think about this is, I'm not sure where I originally heard this, but I like it and I stole it and I think it's a great thing, is that there's 3 types of traffic that you can get. And one is earned traffic, and that's because you have a great blog post or social media or things like that. And that's great to have. It takes a long time to build it up. A second type of traffic is paid traffic, and that's advertising. And you will get traffic with advertising, but when you stop paying, you're going to stop getting traffic. The third type of traffic is owned traffic, and that is people you can contact whenever you want, and that's because you have their email list. Even, younger generation, everyone, for businesses, the preferred means of communicating is still email for most people. I like email too because it's sticky. If I post something on Twitter yesterday, who's going to find it today? Same thing with Facebook, right? But your email is going to sit in my inbox. I might not look at my promotions tab except for maybe once a week, but I'm going to see your name. I have to delete it, right? So it's a good strategy to do. And then beyond that, all the social media channels, where are your customers? If your customers are senior citizens is the fastest growing demographic on Facebook today. Okay? You have to look at and be where your customers are active. If you have a super visual product and it's millennials, and you know that you can get great photography, Instagram is a great place and can give you good returns. It just depends on doing that. If I have, a preschool, I'm not going to say LinkedIn is going to be my #1 channel, okay? So I think you have to look at it that way and experiment in that regard.
Anybody else have any ideas on testing?
Yeah.
How do you test the different channels, marketing channels? You want to get the mic?
I can speak loud enough. Can everyone hear me?
The recorder won't pick it up.
Yeah.
The nice thing about this whole concept of digital media is that testing is very easy. I'll give you, for instance, you can buy ads on Google. It used to be that you had to buy, and we started about the same time in the printing business. It was about $7,000 a year on various yellow pages or more. That's $500 a month on Google. And you know exactly where you are, and you can see the metrics, and if you think that it's working, then you can add to it. And if you see that some words that you're using aren't performing well for you, you change the words and you do that. So it's very easy. Same thing with Facebook. I just, to promote this evening, I just spent all of $20 on Facebook to get 4,000 eyes on the product. Nobody bought anything, but they saw it. And I had 211 engagements. So now if I put a comment on that thing, those people that clicked will get a message that I added a feature or whatever. So there too, if I think that it has credibility, then tomorrow I can do $30 or whatever and reach the people. So it's very easy to test, and you don't have to buy long-term tests. You can just spot test it. But I do have a question about all this social media. It's a job. It's a job just to monitor it.
It is.
If you can comment on that.
It really is. I'll say it again. That's why I made it my full-time job. That's why I made a company out of it. The online presence is active every second of every single day. So one of the biggest pain points that I'm able to solve for a lot of clients is I give you so much time back. a lot of stress comes with it. There could be people reaching out to you. It's another form of customer service, and that's something that, it needs to be understood sooner rather than later. People are talking about you on the internet. They're going to do so in great ways, and they're going to do so in not so good ways. And it's an outlet where people speak their mind as it's happening. So it's an opportunity to mend relationships as well, if it's, in a negative light, and doing it in real time to possibly save a sale or to save a relationship. Whether it's Facebook, even faster with Twitter, the lifespan of a tweet, could just be 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how many followers you have. So making sure that your presence is active and constantly updated is very important, because it attests to your credibility and, the relationships that you have with your customers. I'm a millennial. Again, I'll go back to it. I expect almost to be responded to immediately. And if I don't hear back from a business Facebook page for a couple hours or a day or two, I'm on to the next, because I can just go to the next thing on Google. I can go to the next search term on Facebook and find another available opportunity, because I wasn't receiving those immediate results. And more so than that, people want to do business with other people. They don't care about the business itself. I personally like the personalized approach. If I see that this company is doing good in the community, I feel like I can relate to that. If I see that they're really passionate about their products and services, I want to go to that company rather than the other company that's just looking for money. And social media really is an opportunity to show that and to really highlight on it. So when we talk about, okay, these social platforms are great, yes, as a user, they definitely are, but it is a pay-to-play game. How many eyes can you get on it? And more importantly, it's targeted now. So it's not just based off of age and demographic. It's based off of your buying behaviors. It's based off of your interest. I'm able to target you, and it's funny because as a consumer, I absolutely hate it. As a business, I love it. I'll be shopping for an event one day, and the same dress keeps popping up time after time again. And I know that it's going to happen because I'm doing this for my clients, to their consumers, and to their clients. And it's one of those things that it's going to become even more relevant. A lot of people thought social media was just a trend, and it's proven it's not going anywhere, and it's only becoming even more diverse. And there's a lot of opportunities. So whether it's Facebook or, newly a lot of businesses, and I've seen it with my clients, a lot of success on Snapchat with the millennials. It's an opportunity that social media marketing firms such as myself, we keep up with all of these trends, and we understand where the groups are and the demographics are that would be good for your audience. And that's something that, if you don't have the time to do that and you neglect searching where it's opportune for you to be, it can hurt you rather than help you.
So, as a millennial, you said you send a message to your prospective supplier, and if they don't respond to you within the next minutes or hours, you go on to somebody else. There's this new thing called a telephone. Would you call somebody, or would you just send them a message and wait for them to come back to you? And this is not that new. It's been around a while.
It's funny because I actually just had this conversation with a few friends. Personally, I don't have a problem talking with people on the phone. I have friends that won't even answer my phone calls. I'll get a text a minute later. I'm just trying to have a quick phone call, whether I'm, waiting for an appointment or I'm at lunch and I just want to chit chat. They won't answer my phone calls. They'll text me back. Millennials are afraid to have conversations a lot of times.
Help us understand why. I don't understand this.
I honestly feel like I am one of the rare millennials that I actually like human interaction. But it's because it's become the norm for us. We're not used to having to call places. We're texting places. We're online. It's that immediate, it's.
We can't even get, I teach a books, we can't even get students to respond to emails. It's got to be text.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, emails, again, I check my emails, but if you want an immediate response to me, text me. You know, it's as informal as it may be, it's becoming the norm. So it should be accessible, you know, if this is an option for your clients.
So what's the name of the group behind you demographically? You're the millennials. Is it the Y? What's it called?
Y is millennial.
Okay.
Z is next.
So Y is coming up behind you?
Z is next.
So Z's next. I don't hear that. So
I'm the Y.
you're the Y. What will they?
That's why you're all asking me why. I can't tell you. It's just
So what will they expect? What's their interaction?
You know, it'll be interesting because, you know, the more and more of what I'm doing on social media, a lot of it is becoming live stream. And I had the opportunity with Kyle to connect at an event with, you know, some Snapchat influencers. Over 57 something thousand million, whatever it is. They're actually having relationships over live streams with their clients. So they're not in person like we are now. Personally, I love this human element. I think this is where it's most genuine. But that can't be. It's going to be through a social site because it's for social purposes. And again, people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So I think it's really going to be coming into, rather than texting, the FaceTime and the Skypes and the live stream, where if we can't be in person together because it's inconvenient for the generations, then at least we can be immediate with each other in a personal setting through a video stream.
I wanted to ask, I'm in somewhat an unusual situation. I just, my most recent book was a middle grade book called Henry Hubble's Book of Troubles, and published by Delacorte. And despite the fact that they had a social media person who I was supposed to be relating to, or who was supposed to be helping me, not so much. But I took the challenge seriously, and so I have a blog on my website, usually more typically for politics and, you know, social stuff. But because I wanted to generate interest about Henry Hubble, I lent him my blog, and so this character, this 12-year-old kid, was blogging on my site, telling people what his experiences were now that he was famous because of being the author of this book. I was reasonably confident that this material was funny, although it's still up there, and you can tell me if I come next session, I could be mistaken in that. So I was doing one of these every other week, posting this new material with some new experience. You know, he's a disaster magnet, of course. So I was doing this every other week, and then posting it on Facebook, taking the link right to my blog. They didn't have to make their way through my website or anything like that. Nothing. There was nothing. I mean,
Did you make a meme, though?
what? A meme?
A meme, yeah.
Well,
that was the problem, right? If you want middle schoolers,
yeah, well, that could be that I was speaking to the wrong generation. I was memeless. Yeah. So, I mean, I was just curious, and I'm different from many folks here because I'm not selling the book myself. I'm trying to generate interest for people to go buy the book or, you know, check out the book or whatever. So it's not exactly analogous to what other people are doing, but it's not that different either. So I just wondered if you had some just general thoughts about where I might have gone wrong.
So my first question would be, how is your following right now on Facebook?
Mostly close friends and family, you know. But you know, it's surprising. I mean, it depends on what I post. You know, I can be somewhat surprised at the farness away of who responds.
And that's the beauty of it, because it can go viral. This comes back to the whole discussion. It's really becoming a pay-to-play game. So rather than just sharing it with, friends and family, of course they're going to be supportive, but are those the people that are really going to bring you to the next level with your book sales? And, one of the things is with advertising, Facebook really is a very, and I'm using Facebook just because that is, still the largest social networking opportunity that there is, and it really does have cost-efficient opportunities for you to reach the people that are ready to buy your book. And I say that, I'm able to target not only the age and the demographics that will, be interested in this type of book, but also, are they purchasing other children's books? If so, what type of genres are they? So we're not wasting time on someone who's just interested in, science fiction and, or doesn't even like to read. They like the movies instead. And that's opportunities that weren't necessarily available before with other marketing platforms. So then my next question would be, was there any money backing some of these posts?
You mean my own or Delacorte? No.
Okay, so that's when it gets into a really pay-to-play game, and that's what digital marketing firms, social marketing firms like myself, we really specialize in, is those specific target audiences and money backing behind it. So that way we're leading the people that are ready to purchase and interested in purchasing, and we're directing them exactly to your purchase page. And we're not just wasting relevant money or, in your case, funny humor that would be interesting. It's not just going, anywhere online. It's directed to the right people who are ready for that.
Of course, I have the secondary question of, should Delacorte be interested in supporting it? In other words, is it my responsibility to pay to sell their book? Maybe it is, but I guess that's maybe
it's definitely a debate, and I know one thing that has come into question. We've experienced it. Is it the person who's making the product or the book or whatever it may be? Is it their responsibility to drive it to a retailer location, or is it the responsibility of that bigger identity to bring in the traffic? And what's nice about social media and some of these digital marketing avenues is that you're able to test and say, hey, for $50, for $100, for $500, these are the results I was able to have. What are you able to do for me if I'm doing this much? How are we able to work together? How are we able to generate the most traffic and develop the most amount of sales together through social, through digital, through whatever it could be?
I have a question.
I have a question. Do you have a website for the book? You control?
Well, I have a website that has pages. I have a website, andymeyer.com, that features my. That's M-Y-E-R.
You have a website for the book?
Not for the book, no.
Well, see, today's market in publishing, I've written books too. Every publisher demands that the author have a website for the book to promote the sales of the book. Not the publisher, the author.
Right.
I'm surprised Delacorte hasn't told you that.
Well, it's part of my general website, but you're saying,
it's got to be about the book.
Only about the book.
Only about the book.
So an interesting comment that we heard was that Shana said that she prefers texting, not sexting, but technology. I'm sorry, that was too easy. But we know about email marketing campaigns, but I personally don't know how you do text campaigns. How do you do that?
So just like email marketing campaigns, you're building up your list. So you're building up emails. It's really just a different line of communication. So you're going to build up phone numbers rather than email addresses, and you're going to have the opportunity to, reach them in a more, what I'll say, my experience, I think in a more personalized way. a more immediate way. So, just like a lot of people use Constant Contact or MailChimp, there's other platforms for texting that you're able to reach your audience as well.
But don't you have to have their permission? You just can't send out stuff.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So, whether you have a form on your website where if you're interested in X, Y, or Z, make sure you leave your number. It's the same thing with email lists. You really shouldn't be emailing people that, don't want you to be emailing them. So it really is that, double standard there. But if you have an area on your website, and I'm sure you can attest to this, that rather than saying first name, last name, email, first name, last name, phone number, and then you just send out texts to them. It'll be in a shorter form, it'll be a little bit more informal, but ultimately it'll be a little bit more of a personal connection. When you're getting something to your phone through a text message, it's usually someone that you trust to have your phone number, and it's not just going to be spamming them.
I hear if it's true, is Twitter really collapsing?
I personally have not seen as great of success on Twitter. However, it really does depend on your audience. I use Facebook as,
No question.
Yeah, but, to some extent, it really might not be significant for one company rather than another. I've worked with, in opportunities where it's been something of sports events or nightlife events where people are complaining that the line's too long, or that their food's cold, or that the venue's terrible, or the music's terrible. Twitter is very valuable for that because it's such an immediate form, and it's where people are just sharing their short thoughts. So, in something, I'm just using entertainment because that's the experience that I have. I think it's very valuable. Do I think that it's decreased over time? Absolutely. Do I think other platforms are taking precedent over that? Yes. It's becoming a very visual world. So when I say live streaming and videos, I've seen some clients nearly increase their traffic by 6 times just by posting a video rather than a picture and not doing anything about it. There was no money backed behind it. It's just because, if you're on Facebook and you watch one video, the next video just pops up, and 20 minutes later, you don't even remember what video you started watching because you're watching a funny cat video because they always take over the internet. So I think because Twitter isn't necessarily as visual as a lot of other opportunities, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, I think that's why it's decreasing. But there's always changes, so I'm excited to see what they bring out next.
I've heard that they're in a little bit of a financial trouble as well because their sales are dropping.
Well, that's the pressure of being a public company. Twitter is really geared more towards real-time events, things that are happening now. There's a lot of more people who go on Twitter who never actually post anything, who just get news and things from it. And of course, that can't be measured by Wall Street, so there's some pressure there on doing it. Where we've seen success with Twitter is in the customer service area. So if you have a situation where it is customer service and those complaints and things like that, Twitter can be the go-to place for responding immediately. I did see an article recently that talked about that if you need to get a flight changed in the airport, the fastest way to do it is to reach out on Twitter on it. The big companies in terms of customer service are all over it. I was a little perturbed at Verizon one day for something they did to me and made a little tweet, and I had a response back in 5 minutes from AT&T who said, hey, call us, we're going to help you out and get you something better. So it took 8 hours for Verizon to respond. So what's my thought, one versus the other at this point?
So who's your carrier today?
Well, AT&T was not available as a internet provider. So,
Okay.
Of course, Comcast never.
One of the greatest books ever written for people like us was Guerrilla Marketing. I forget the name of the author. So where's the gentleman with the young boy as his hero? I was going to tell him how to use Twitter in guerrilla marketing fashion. Just have his fictitious boy tweet on Donald Trump, so he'll have millions of people aware of his existence in no time. He'll lose all the Democrats. Sir, did you hear what I said?
No.
What's the name of your boy, Hubble?
Henry Hubble.
Henry Hubble. Have Henry Hubble tweet on Donald Trump's feed, and you'll have millions of subscribers instantly. And all he has to do is share his political philosophy there.
A video in the book would also be.
So before Shana makes a follow-up comment, I just wanted to let folks know here that we had a meetup last Monday here in this room. I run a real estate meetup the first Monday of every month, and the theme was marketing real estate to find properties to buy. Larry Steigerwalt, who you probably know, and he challenged everybody in the room to take out their mobile phone and look to see how many names they have in their address book on their mobile phone. Most people have at least 100, maybe 200 or 300, maybe more. And what he said was, let every one of those people in your mobile phone, who you presumably know, otherwise they wouldn't be in your phone book, let them know what business you're in. Or in Tony's case, let them know that he's in the puzzles and games business, and ask them for at least one other name, one other referral name, and have that person contact you, or have them, one way or the other contact you. And that's because I asked you how do you grow your mailing list, that's a real fast way of growing your mailing list, and just let it become organic and let that person then give you a referral and that person give you a referral. So starting with your phone address book, you have the opportunity to build a mailing list of thousands of people very, very quickly. And I thought that was a really good suggestion from Larry.
I'm actually doing a webinar tomorrow at 2 p.m. on how to grow your list and grow your business.
You'll add that.
We have that might be one of the ways. I think we have 40 ways that you can do it. Well, there's a lot of ways you have to do that, but I want to touch on something that Shana said earlier, and that is consistency. Okay, you have to provide something of value, and you have to be consistent in your social media, in your email, in your blog, in order to gain any traction. Because you can't just send one email out and then 3 months later, or I'm going to make 25 Twitter posts in a week, and then you never hear from me again for another 7 months because I got tired of it. It has to be consistent, and that's where this comes back to the strategy. Comes back to building an editorial calendar around what you're going to create. It can be a full-time job. As a business owner, though, you have to direct and know the strategy, but there are points of execution that other people in your organization can learn how to do, or you can sub the whole thing out. It all becomes down to what's the best use of your time. For what we do, I often use the accountant analogy. Some people go to their accountant maybe just once a year to do their taxes, and that's it, and they're fine. They ask for advice now and then, and they run with it. Other people say, you know what, it's not the best use of our time to do quarterlies, do that. And then other people come with their whole shoebox and say, please let me know when it's done. And it all depends on your business, and you have to look at where you should be spending your time.
I think that you hit a point that I think it's difficult for people in our field when you ask direct questions of is this good, is this good, is this good? Because in the end, it still comes back to strategy. And you don't have unlimited dollars, and you don't have the time to do everything. So somebody's got to work with you, or you have to figure out who your customer is and how to reach them. And then, honestly, if you can pick something you like, if you happen to like Facebook and it matches your strategy, then start with one. I would still agree, website, I still think email, and then driving traffic, and basic SEO. So if you don't have any of those, then the rest of it's just going to fall flat. But I was at the last SCORE meeting, and this poor gentleman stood up and just said, but how can we do it all? And he was right in that it can sound overwhelming. We do it all the time, so it's a little bit different. And you can't do it all. You just can't. And you're running a business. So, like what you do for a living is what you should be kind of focused on. I just think there's two things to business. You're running the business or you're getting customers or services or something. So just take it in stride that just all this information pouring over you does not mean that you have to go out on every single one. If it's not connecting with your strategy, and we can't connect it with your strategy right away until we understand exactly what you're doing and how much we have. And that's when you were saying is we can use your resources, we can use our resources, and how fast you need to move. And, you know, those kind of questions, they're all strategy questions. So any single question of, is Facebook going to work for me? With no context, with no strategy, you're only asking us a generic medium question. And you can look that up in YouTube and get 15 YouTubes on Facebook if you want to learn about it. When you're sitting down with somebody who's strategizing for you, you're having a conversation about your business, your immediate goals, your financial resources, your human resources, and what the talents are that we can share with you. So it's, you know, it just sounds overwhelming sometimes. I just wanted to kind of have a little breath for you to say, you don't have to do it all, and you don't have to understand it all. And I'm in the business, and I don't understand it all. But I understand enough to make my clients money.
So before we wrap up, we need to be out of here in about 20 minutes. The restaurant likes to close by about 9:15. I'm going to ask Tony to give us a summary of what you've learned tonight, and did we answer your question, and if not, what questions still remain?
Okay, I'll start off with, I was about ready to give you some summaries. I do have a couple of comments, one to Andy. The biggest shot I get for my kids, and this can hurt when I spew forth what I think is some of the most brilliant, witty comments in the world, is to hear them say, "Oh, that's dad humor." And when I hear that from my son's girlfriend, who I think is the sweetest little girl going, and she looks at me with those dismissive eyes and goes, "Oh, my dad does the same thing. It's dad humor." I realize there is definitely a generational difference in humor, and I still think I'm damn funny, but I can't. But you know what? I know I have a big win when once in a while my kids say, "Hey, that is funny." I don't hear that very often from them. Enough of that. I think.
Are they your target market?
No, they're not. There's a reason they're not.
I'm hoping that the people at Delacorte who accepted it had some notion of what their market is.
For 12-year-olds, yeah, that's a challenge. I don't know how you can be funny with 12-year-olds.
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. All right, well, maybe that's another seminar. The one thing I guess I want to say at the end is, I still want to reinforce, I don't want to compete it to death. ROI, at some point, it's got to be dollars and profits, and I'll let it go at that. But there is one piece that I thought of hearing actually from you folks here, and I realize I probably have made this mistake, and I hopefully don't continue to make it. And now putting my hat back on as the owner of an e-commerce business, is I probably underestimated the expense of doing what I wanted to do at the quality I wanted to do it. And I am just coming around to the fact that I really need some digital marketing help, because as much as I read books, I think I get it. And my background is marketing, but it's not digital marketing. That I'm probably going to need to spend some money in that area. So I would say, you know, there's two sides of the ratio of return on investment. It's what's your return, obviously. Make sure you, one, don't underfund your investment, and make sure you do your homework to understand what that right level of investment is. I think that would be kind of my wrap-up takeaway from the end of the night. It's developing the site, and it's supporting that site, and understand what that's going to take. And I don't know if you can really do it well on a shoestring.
I just want to make a comment. I heard earlier talk about phone numbers on websites. I kind of wanted to just give a quick practical tip. Does everybody here have a website that they're running? Raise your hands. Whip it out on your phone right now and click on that phone number. If you can't click on that phone number, or if that phone number doesn't connect to the actual company that you're trying to connect to, you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage trying to reach the millennials that you want on the phone. So there's ways to do that. Ask your web developer. It's a super simple, like 12 little strokes on a keyboard piece of code to make a phone number that you can't click on clickable.
It's a free plugin.
It's not even a plugin. You can just use a little bit of code. There are plugins and easier ways to do it too. Literally, just go ahead and Google how to make the phone number on my website clickable for mobile, and that'll start to help you generate traffic. You can connect that number to Google Analytics, like how I was showing you earlier, so you can track it being clicked from mobile. But I just wanted to throw it out there. You can't click on it from mobile now. Your clients can't click on it either. And somebody mentioned guerrilla marketing. I just want to encapsulate my summary from tonight is actually a quote that's been rolling in my head from that book by Mr. Jay Levinson. It's like my new marketing Bible. And it says, guerrilla marketing aims its message at individuals, or if it must, a group. And the smaller the group, the better. You're trying to not just use a shotgun or a net and blast your message on the interwebs or on the social media platforms. You're trying to find your client. And if they use a platform that you know they like to use, go there, be there. But if they're not, you don't need to. So if your target market's not on Facebook, don't spend money on Facebook, just spend it on Google, or just spend it on whatever. You find those small groups of your clients. Like, that's what marketing does, right? I just wanted to, that's my takeaway from tonight, because everyone's asking, how do I do it on a shoestring budget? How do I do marketing for free? If you can narrow down, do the exercise of finding out what's the persona of the people you're trying to sell to, and then just go find them, that's your freest marketing you'll ever do. Just wanted to throw that in.
So basically about the finding humor for children. I actually used to work with a children's book author, and what he would do is he would actually take what he thought was funny and he would write it down into his books, and then he would go to classrooms and he would go to schools and he would read it to them and figure out, okay, they laughed at this, they didn't laugh at this is what I need to do. The next thing is, who exactly are you marketing to when you're doing your targeted advertising? Like, if you're trying to get the parents to read it, the humor for them is going to be what you think is funny. If it's going to be for the children, then you have the children visiting your website and then going to their parents afterwards, it's going to be a different type of humor altogether. So basically, that is the most concrete way to figure out what is going to be humorous to children versus humorous to everybody in this room. The next thing in particular is about advertising. Because I do IT and cybersecurity, Google Analytics, the reason they are able to advertise to you across multiple websites and you search for address and then it's everywhere, is because you have a Google advertising ID that they assign to you, and every single time that you visit a website, that Google advertising ID is active. You will literally never ever find me on your website because I do not accept those tracking IDs. So therefore, whenever I visit your website, I'm literally a ghost and you will never see anything from me, personally. I personally feel that, especially as millennials, the next generation become more frequented, what you're really going to want to do is have curated content. The only website that on the entire internet that I actually see advertisements from is a website called Slashdot. And the reason being is because they actually have a team that goes through every single one of their advertisements. So when you go to look for something, that advertisement has actually been checked by somebody and it's something relevant to you. There's a search engine called DuckDuckGo where, as an example, if you are searching for motorcycle parts, more than likely you're interested in buying motorcycle parts, so therefore that is the type of parts that they will actually advertise to you. Whereas something that is completely unrelated to what you're actually looking for.
Raise your hand. Did you get some value out of tonight? Are you going to come back to the next meetup? Nobody cares. Okay, but we
After you mentioned about the phone campaign, in particular, a lot of what was discussed tonight was e-commerce type stuff. The real question for me in particular, because I own a restaurant, is from my digital presence, how do I determine that the number of people coming in the door, how do I determine that? What I personally did was I have feedback cards that basically say, rate your experience, provide me feedback that you think I can do better, also provide me your email address to build an email list, and provide me your birthday. So that way when their birthday rolls around, I can give them something for free so they come back in the door. After tonight, I will also be adding phone numbers onto that list as well to make sure that I can start text message campaigns.
Make sure you ask about that first, though, because it depends on the audience.
They basically put it on there, so if they're not.
It's the same thing with the feedback cards. The reason the email address is on there and the birthdays is because if they are interested, they will provide the information. If they are not interested, then they'll leave the email blank or they'll leave the birthday blank.
The form details that.
So for those of you who are old enough to remember 5 and dime stores, that was way before your time. People would walk into, or any retail store even before the internet, people would walk into a retail store and they would do their browsing or whatever. They may or may not buy something, check out the front desk, and they would leave. And the poor owner of the store really had no idea who their customers really were. You know, they could see what their sales were, but they really had no way to keep track of who their customers were and how to reach out to them and so on. Look at the age that we're in today. It's really amazing, all the tools that are available and the channels that are available to reach out to these people. And so that's both the good news and the bad news for us. It's wonderful when it works and it's expensive when it doesn't work. And I think the answer to the ROI question is it's wonderful when it works and it sucks when it doesn't work. And you just have to, it's trial and error until you get it right. Let's give our panel a great round of applause, please. They did a really great